everyone, and welcome to Cleveland Video Vault 5, brought to you by 650 Gold. I'm Leon Bibb, and with me is News Channel 5 videographer Tom Livingston, who serves as one of our station archivists. We're glad to have you with us on this one, Tom.
Good to be here, Leon.
We're going to have a lot of fun, I'm telling you that. During the next 30 minutes, we're going to go back in time and look at some vintage clips from News Channel 5 programming, personalities, and news stories.
These are just a few of the clips that I've been posting on our Video Vault page on newsnet5.com. And I'll try to tell you some of the stories behind the stories you'll be seeing as we go through the show. So it's going to be fun.
Lots of fun indeed, Tom. So let's get started right now. We all know that Cleveland is the world capital of rock and roll, and TV5 has been there throughout the years for some very memorable musical moments. The year was 1964, and Cleveland, like the rest of America, was being invaded by Beatlemania.
Don Webster, who had been hired by TV5 only a few weeks prior to this Beatles visit, was sent to interview the Fab Four. This interview took place in the WHK Auditorium at 5000 Euclid Avenue, which is now home to the Agora.
You had rave reviews about the motion picture, A Hard Day's Night. Do you plan to do another one soon?
Yeah, we make another film in February. We hope it's as good, if not better, than the one we made.
Who is, if there is, a chief Beatle?
Me.
Is there a leader of the group?
Not really, no. If anybody gets the blame for anything, it's me, so that's why I'm called the leader.
The group has been together for how long before you really became famous?
About 8 years.
8 years?
Us 3. Ringo joined about 3 years ago.
Then Don asked George Harrison about how a remark he made earlier that year was now becoming a problem during Beatle concerts.
George, there's been some remarks accredited to the Beatles that you aren't too appreciative of all the jelly beans being thrown at you on your tour.
No, it's a bit dangerous, you know, because jelly bean traveling about 50 miles an hour through the air, if it hits you in the eye, well, you're finished, you know, you're blind, aren't you? So we've never liked people throwing stuff like that. We don't mind them throwing streamers, but jelly beans are a bit dangerous.
Tom, you know, we're doing this show in the very same studio where the Upbeat show was taped from 1964 to 1971. Did the Beatles ever play on Upbeat?
No, Leon, they never played on Upbeat, but the film that you saw from 1964 did play on the show, so technically they appeared on Upbeat.
You know, I wonder what it was like for Don Webster to interview the famous Beatles.
Don is retired and living in South Carolina now, and I emailed him and asked him about that, and he said he really doesn't remember much of the day. It was a whirlwind, but he says he did remember asking who was the chief Beatle.
Another superstar from the rock world is Bruce Springsteen, who's coming back to Cleveland in a few weeks for a concert at the Cube. But perhaps the most memorable Cleveland appearance occurred in 1985 at the old Cleveland Stadium.
Go to Bill Yunkin outside the stadium where the Springsteen concert is winding down. Bill, what was it like?
Wilma, believe it or not, the concert's still going on, although a few people are starting to leave right now. It's been rocking and rolling. The stadium has all night long. You know, I've covered many things down at the Cleveland Municipal Stadium, but nothing ever as big as the Bruce Springsteen concert. And like a lot of folks, that song, Born in the USA, has kind of been wearing a bit thin, but tonight it really got me. I've never heard it like I heard it this evening.
Oh! 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4!
Born down in a dead man's town. The first kick I took was when I hit the ground. End up like a dog, aspirin be too much till you spend half your life.
The concerts of today have come a long way since the days of small halls, simple lighting, and 20-watt amplifiers. Crowds of 20,000 people or more are commonplace. Extravagant light shows look as though they come from the set of Star Wars, and sound that you feel as well as hear is supplied by 10,000 watts of power. But did you ever consider what goes into putting on a show of this size? We took a behind-the-scenes look while the popular band Genesis set up for a show at the Coliseum. The day starts early as the 10 tons of speakers are hung. After that, the many panels of multicolored lights are put into place and tested. Like many things these days, the lights are controlled by a computer, and the computer is telling us that one of the lights is burnt out. The message is relayed to a man on the stage who resembles a killer bee and then sends the crew Spider-Man up to fix the light. Well, enough of that technical talk. Now that all the lights are in place and working, the band comes out for a sound check. Meticulous tuning and rehearsal is done to ensure perfection at showtime. After the sound check, it's off to the infamous backstage dressing room, where unusual goings-on are known to happen.
Yeah, you don't find many naked girls backstage at our gigs. It's usually table tennis tables and
ping pong.
That's right,
As much as possible. That's what I do. If you weren't talking to me, I'd be playing ping pong.
The hours of painstaking preparation pays off.
There's Phil Collins of Genesis. Phil Collins, still the superstar. How cool it must have been to be backstage playing ping pong with the band Genesis. Who was the reporter in that?
Well, that was Dave Tarbert, who was actually a videotape editor here at Channel 5, but he had a love for music. They let him do a segment called The Man on Music on Live on 5.
Tom, there's something else I noticed. Computers had begun changing music even back then.
Yeah, even back in the 80s, they were using the computers for the lighting. Very cool.
On that Springsteen concert now, I'm told this was a concert that almost didn't take place.
Well, that's correct. I shot the concert. That was very cool, 1985, to shoot that concert. But there was a problem. The ticket takers and the ushers had threatened to go out on strike, and they knew Bruce Springsteen would not cross that picket line. So Jules Belkin, who was the promoter, stepped in at the last minute, cut a deal for that concert only. The concert went on.
The deal was cut, and the music was made.
That's right.
We now spotlight one of our own. She entered the field of television at an age when most people begin to plan their retirements, and lasted there long enough to become a living legend. She was known as the Grande Dame. Going back to World War II, Dorothy Fuldheim was interviewing presidents and popes at a time when most women who worked as secretaries or nurses.
Dorothy Fuldheim, yesterday and today, the most trusted name in Cleveland broadcasting.
But she was probably best known for her commentaries, and the one you're about to see is probably her most famous and most requested.
Time has come. It is my extreme pleasure to say happy 86th birthday today to Dorothy Fuldheim. Dorothy, we all love you.
Thank you. You know, Ted, the house I live in is 86-year-old. It has lost some of its color. Much of the red and pink is gone, and the white is not as white as it used to be. It doesn't stand quite as straight. It seems to have sunk a little, and sometimes it tilts slightly. But its heating apparatus, its disposal plant, its illuminating system are all functioning remarkably well. I'm standing outside of St. Paul's. This is the great cathedral where the marriage will take place. Here you will find Winston Churchill, Nelson, some of the great heroes of the British Empire who are buried. Also a corridor, a wing where 28,000 Americans sleep their eternal sleep, who fought here for England and the world. The theory is that Parliament takes care of the laws, the royalty will take care of the pomp, and there's certainly plenty of pomp today.
And so you see this endless pageantry, royalty continues. This time all of England was part of the wooing in this marriage. It was their fairy tale come true. This is Dorothy Fuldheim reporting from London.
Even though she was known as a serious, world-renowned journalist, Dorothy did have her fun side. So when the crew came to her with this motorcycle idea, she was thrilled to do it.
I just love to ride. So let's kiss off into the sunset.
Dorothy was an integral part of our popular noon news, and here is a classic promo from that era.
When you get that midday hunger to know what's happening, it's nice to know a place.
Hi, how are you? Coming right up.
Where you can be with friends.
Hi, come on in, sit down. Here's your favorite place.
People you feel comfortable with.
Here you are, just the way you like it.
A place where you can catch up on everything.
Wear your raincoat tomorrow.
Did you hear the president this morning?
Get plenty of food for thought.
You know what this coffee costs?
And leave with a good feeling.
Was everything okay?
That's the way it is with Dorothy Fuldheim, Liz Richards, Jenny Krim, and Joel Rose. The new News for Lunch Bunch. Weekdays on 5.
Thursdays were Talk to Dorothy Day at 5780550, and here is one of the most famous.
One year I vote Republican, the next year I vote Democrat. I'm, what is it, not bisexual, but what is it?
I don't think that's the word you wanted.
No.
Bipartisan.
Bipartisan. Thank you. Well.
A crippling stroke in 1984 ended Dorothy's TV career, and 5 years later, she passed away at the age of 92. And Tom, I'll tell you, I did get a chance to meet Dorothy Fuldheim once. I was working at Channel 3 in those days, and I was a young reporter, and she and I appeared on the same program at Cleveland City Hall. But when she walked in, everybody stepped back.
She had that aura.
The sea parted, and Dorothy walked in. I says, hello, Miss Fulltime. Hello, Miss Fulltime.
Well, you know, Dorothy was 4 foot something,
yeah.
and I'm 6'6", and she'd walk by me in the hallway, and she'd look up at me and say, "My, you're tall."
That's a great story. I understand she had an interesting way of relaxing between the newscasts.
Well, Bob Seeley's been here at the station 45 years, and he told me that Dorothy would wave him in to her office and say, "Would you do me that favor now?" And she'd give him a little money. He went down the street to a beverage store and would buy Dorothy a Michelob. Gave it to her. She'd put it in her desk drawer. She had the desk drawer open a little bit, and she'd take a sip out of the beer, and she'd put her feet up on the desk, and she'd light a cigar. She loved chocolate, but she liked cigars and beer as well.
Dorothy Fulltime knew how to relax.
Indeed.
Between newscasts. Well, coming up next, we'll visit some famous landmarks in our area, a family fun park, and a venue that hosted an actual miracle.
And don't forget, you can always see these clips and much more on my video vault page at newsnet5.com.
We'll be right back.
See dozens of vintage clips from decades of News Channel 5 programming. Go to newsnet5.com/Cleveland Video Vault 5, presented by 650 Gold.